Well, hi everybody. Derrick here, along with Geoff. You have two-thirds of the Not So Grand Jury host with you today. We wanted to spend some time after our How to Get Away with Murder episode to talk about a few references we made in that episode. First off, we hope you enjoyed it. We also hope you enjoyed it more than we enjoyed the actual How to Get Away with Murder pilot. Although Geoff did give it a 3 out of 9, which I thought was at least 2 ranking points higher than I expected him to give it, but hey, we'll go from there. Um, and Geoff, would you like to, rebut why you gave it 3?
No, I think I laid it out pretty well in the episode. We have to grade these things as we will see next week. If you compare it to some legal dramas, it was not as bad. So I could not rank it the same as Love Guaranteed. I don't actually remember how we ranked Love Guaranteed. I assume we all gave it ones or something.
Because I don't
We will
remember
find
either.
out. Yeah.
I don't remember either. But actually, to that point, Love Guaranteed was one of the episodes we referenced in the How to Get Away with Murder episode. For those of you who have not been following along, like intensely to know that that is how I got involved in the Not So Grand Jury, I'm going to give you a very brief background, which is Geoff and Mike did we'll call the predecessor version of the Not So Grand Jury, where you released 12 episodes. When were they? A couple years ago? Over the
Yeah, it was during the pandemic.
during
I think we started in like fall of 2000.
right
2020. Sorry, not fall of 2000.
fall of 2000. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so and I got invited. I'm not sure how I got invited, but Geoff.
Because it was about a solo practitioner. I'm like, I know a solo practitioner.
Right.
Let's let's see what he thinks about all this.
And well, as you're going to find out, because next week we are going to re-release the Love Guaranteed episode that I recorded with Geoff and Mike when I was a guest host. You're going to find out what we thought of Love Guaranteed, um, especially after I had more whiskey during that episode than I think I've had combined in all the episodes that we've done so far. So it was a fun one. And I won't lie, I feel like we only got to about a third of the issues that we had with it. There's
Oh,
so much more to discuss.
I mean, we spent so much time talking about her. Was it a Carmen Gia, her car?
Oh, the car. We talked more about the car and the one tape that was stuck in the tape deck of the car than I think we talked about
I
legal
remember
stuff.
cutting quite a bit of that conversation when doing the edit.
And there's still probably 10 minutes left,
There was still fair
even after cutting, yes. So that one's going to come out next week as our first full episode in 2025. It was enjoyable for me to make it. I remember listening to it and feeling like it was even better listening to it. So I think you're going to thoroughly enjoy it. So that was one of the episodes we mentioned last week. We also mentioned the All Too Common Law, which was Geoff's podcast even prior to that. So Geoff's going to explain that, and we're going to give you we're going to release during the sidebar one of the episodes that Geoff did in All Too Common Law, which was about How to Get Away with Murder pilot, which is one of the reasons why Geoff that show's been living rent free in Geoff's brain.
Yeah, right after law school ended, I was studying for the bar and trying to come up with a way to make that more interesting because it is not terribly interesting to study for the bar exam. So I started a podcast. There weren't really any legal podcasts at the time. This was in late spring, early summer of 2014. And so I started All Too Common Law, and this episode dropped in October of 2014, just after the pilot aired for How to Get Away with Murder. I've lightly edited this because in the episode that Derrick, you and I and Mike just dropped last week, we retread some of the same ground, and I didn't want to just waste listeners' time making the same points again. But there is some stuff in there that we didn't really get to in our discussion. This was also from the perspective of me fresh out of law school. So those experiences were a little more raw at the time, let's say. But yeah, this was the podcast at the time before I discovered just how difficult releasing podcast episodes on a regular basis as a, associate attorney in a two-man law firm was. Kudos, Derrick, for your efforts on that front. So we thought it would be, since we mentioned it, and since there were some additional aspects of the show that I discussed there, this might be worth letting our listeners hear.
For the record, I haven't even listened to the episode, so I'm excited to listen to our own episode when it comes out, because that will be fun. And I will be very curious as to your commentary, Geoff, and whether you agree or disagree with comments you made 10 years ago.
I've listened to it a couple times now recently, so let's just get right into it, and you'll find out. Speaking of fantasy worlds without a shred of believability, let's talk about
How to Get Away with Murder.
Shonda Rhimes is a TV showrunner who made it big by creating Grey's Anatomy, a medically inaccurate show about medical doctors. Then she made Scandal, a political TV show that knows nothing about how politics works. Now she's made How to Get Away with Murder, a show about lawyers that manages to be completely disconnected from how the law works. You know I wasn't going to let a show about law students that's called How to Get Away with Murder slip by without seeing at least one episode. That one episode happened to be the pilot episode, their very first episode. So what you're about to hear is a series of clips from the show with my comments mixed in. This obviously isn't the whole episode, so you're missing some context. The story follows these 5 criminal law students and their professor. This episode covers their first couple days of class. But it also flashes forward every now and then to these same students just after they killed someone. So here goes. My thoughts on how to lose your legal career I'm sorry. What I meant was...
How to Get Away with Murder.
Sorry it took so long. I went back for this.
You can take that back right now.
No, it's smart. Commonwealth v. Deloach. The case the prosecution should have won but lost because there was no murder weapon.
So what are you saying?
We clean it and we put it back. Hide it in plain sight. After we bury the body.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I'm with Michaela.
No, Connor, think.
Trophy we need, yes. But the body stays where it
No,
is.
the body is what gets us caught. You are not thinking straight.
What do you suggest?
Do something that doesn't involve carrying a body across campus on the busiest night of the year.
Right, Laurel. Even if we get it out of the house unseen, the ground is frozen.
You have all night to dig.
So Laurel is clearly a moron, because you want to get rid of the murder weapon because there's this one case where the prosecution lost because they didn't have the murder weapon. But yeah, we have to absolutely take the body, haul it all the way across town apparently, and then bury it in frozen ground. What? I don't understand how are these people in law school, period? You have to take a logic test in order to get into law school. How are these people in this class?
Will the individual who just spoke please stand and repeat the answer?
The mens rea, also referred to as intent, was to kill Mr. Kaufman.
That's right. Your name?
Laurel?
Okay, so here's Laurel again, and clearly she's just not the brightest bulb, because that's not actually what mens rea means. Her professor says she got it right, but she didn't. Mens rea means the level of intent. And I know that intent versus the level of intent may sound really nitpicky, but it's not. It's a huge distinction, because intent is one type of mens rea. You could be reckless, or you could be negligent, or you could be grossly negligent, or be acting with depraved indifference. There are any number of things that fall into mens rea. It does not mean intent.
The trial begins in 2 days. So tomorrow, each of you have 1 minute to present the best defense for this case. See if you can beat my current plan.
The trial starts in 2 days? She said earlier that she got this client a week ago. Now, you couldn't see it in the audio, but when she was asking them to go over the facts of the case, she had a whole PowerPoint presentation put together with all of the facts and everything. So either she or one of her associates has assembled a PowerPoint presentation, put together this case study for her students, which, by the way, she emailed to them 2 days prior to this. So 5 days after she got her client. She's got a brand new client whose trial is starting apparently 10 days from when she takes the client on as a client. And instead of, preparing the criminal case, she is having her associates make a PowerPoint presentation of the facts for her criminal law students. She's having them write up this whole factual scenario for them to read of all this information from the case. Who knows whether it's confidential or not. So that's in the first 5 days of her having this client, because she had to email it to her students 2 days before the class that they're having right now. There is no way that this attorney and her 2 associates are providing anything like competent representation to this woman. It's no wonder that she's asking her law students for help coming up with a defense strategy, because she hasn't had any time to formulate one herself.
And one more thing. Every year I choose 4 students to come work for me. This assignment is used to help me decide who that is. The top student gets this. Consider this your immunity idol.
I swear, this has to be the dumbest hiring strategy for a law firm I've ever heard of. She's already said that she's not going to teach these students how to read criminal law, how to research criminal law, and now she's going to hire 4 of them based on how they do in this project, which they've got to have done by the 2nd day of class. They don't know any criminal law yet. She's not going to teach them how to study any criminal law. When they're working for her, they're 1L law students. They're not going to be allowed to practice in the courtroom. They are going to be useless. And she has no idea who will actually be intelligent. I got to this point in the episode. I've had to watch this thing so many goddamn times. I got to this part of the episode, and I literally had to get up and walk away from the television at this spot, because it was just so... This is absurd. There is no way this woman gets to be any sort of powerful attorney the way she runs things.
Consider this your immunity idol. The winner can turn this in at any point to get out of an exam.
Okay, now I am certain that they didn't consult with an attorney, because there are 2 things here. First of all, law students generally only have 1 exam. So if you exempt somebody from an exam, it's gonna be the final. This is complete. If you'd asked 1 attorney to read it, they'd have pointed at this line and said, "That's ridiculous. Cut that now." Because, first of all, criminal law students, period, generally only have 1 exam per class. It's the final exam, and your entire grade is based on it. So you can't exempt someone from the only exam they're going to take. Second of all, even if she's doing something where you have your grade based on like a midterm and a final, or several exams throughout the semester. I don't really know how that would work, but whatever, because she's not teaching them, how to study criminal law. But law schools, in order for their students to be eligible to take the bar, have to be accredited by the state's bar exam. Unless you're in California, because California's weird. But I'm fairly certain that state bars would not approve of a law school that allowed students to be exempt from taking the exams, because it means they don't really know whether the students are learning the materials that they need to learn in order to take and pass the bar exam and be competent lawyers. This is, bar none, the stupidest thing in this entire episode. And this entire episode is stupid. Deeply stupid.
Jill! I never agreed to this. The coin did, so I'm going to stand here and not see anything. So I'm called to testify. I can say just that.
I just want you to move your feet.
This is what happens when you don't teach your criminal law students how to read criminal law, or what criminal law consists of. This girl has been with them this whole time that they're trying to deal with, they killed a guy, and how are they going to get away with it? So now, when they're cleaning up the body, she's like, I don't want any part of this, because this way when they ask me questions, I could say blah, blah, blah. That's not how a conspiracy works. She's been in it the whole time. You can back out of a criminal conspiracy right up until the moment that the criminal conspiracy begins to actually act. Here, she's been involved from the beginning. They killed a man. What does she think she's getting away with by saying, nope, I'm not going to help you clean it up? Does she think that the prosecutor is going to be looking at the case file and going, well, we would have charged you with murder, but we noticed that you didn't help your co-conspirators clean up the body after you all killed him. So, we'll let you plead down. No, she does seem like the weak link, so they may offer her some sort of plea bargain, but it's not going to be because she didn't, she refrained from cleaning up the body. Ugh.
Congratulations to those who managed to keep your seat. That said, none of you beat my approach, which goes as follows. Step 1, discredit the witnesses. Step 2, introduce a new suspect. That person is Mr. Kaufman's jealous business partner, Lionel Bryant. Step 3, we bury the evidence. We throw so much information at the jury that they walk into the deliberation room with one overwhelming feeling: doubt. That's how you get away with murder.
This defense strategy of hers is essentially the most basic defense strategy that any newly minted criminal defense attorney would come up with in their very first case. Of course you discredit their witnesses, and of course you try and come up with different suspects, and of course you try and sow doubt in the jury's minds. That's what you do in a criminal case when you don't have anything else to fall back on. It's the default setting. It's trial advocacy 101. They showed a whole montage of the students coming up with their own interesting little defense strategies, and half of them were more creative and more interesting and had more potential than the one that she's just put forward as her winning strategy.
Miss Tanner, you testified that you saw a pill on my client's desk on the day of the accident, correct?
Yes.
And you said it was a yellow pill, similar to Prosecutor Williams' shirt.
Yes.
Prosecutor Williams' shirt is blue, Miss Tanner. Are you colorblind?
Yes. But I know what I saw that morning.
I see. So whether the pill that you saw on my client's desk was blue, like her anxiety medication she used to endure working under you, or yellow, like the aspirin used to poison Mr. Kaufman, is not something you could tell us.
I told you Gina was acting nervous.
It's a simple question. Is it possible that the pill that you saw on Gina's desk was her anxiety medication?
I guess so.
Thank you for your candor.
I saw she was wearing glasses in one of her Facebook photos, which got me wondering about her eyesight. So I called every optometrist covered under her insurance, found hers, then pretended to be a claims provider to get the receptionist to admit she has a condition called achromatopsia. It causes color blindness. Step 1, discredit the witness.
I might as well hand you the trophy right now, Miss Pratt. But I won't. Not until I see how the rest of you step up your game.
So, now we have something else to add to the list of things that would get this professor disbarred. An attorney, under the rules of ethics, cannot have someone do something on their behalf which the attorney cannot themselves do. So she just had one of her students commit insurance fraud. Her student posed as a claims representative and got someone to violate medical confidentiality to get evidence to discredit a witness. That's a violation of the rules of ethics and will get you disbarred. This all goes back to what I was saying earlier about when you have a class of 100 people and you have a law professor as abrasive as this one, someone is going to get pissed at them. And someone is going to have a treasure trove of information at this point to bring to the state bar to say, hey, this is what this lawyer has been up to. There's no way that this professor has been a lawyer or a law professor for this long and kept their license. There are other clips I could play, but honestly, it's like beating a dead horse at this point. Seriously, this show is bad. But it's not the only one out there. And there are plenty of shows and movies and things that do it surprisingly well. In fact, everyone applauds My Cousin Vinny for actually being a very good representation of how criminal defense works. I haven't watched it all the way through in ages, so I can't really say for sure, but I know that the bits and pieces I've caught recently haven't made me cringe, so maybe that's saying something.
The Not So Grand Jury is sponsored by Morwa PLLC.
The opinions expressed in the Not So Grand Jury are those of the hosts themselves, and not of their respective employers.
The theme music for the Not So Grand Jury is from Gustav Holst's Jupiter and is in the public domain.
If you'd like to get in touch with us, if you want to suggest future movies, or even if you want to offer corrections, you can email us at notsograndjury@gmail.com or message us on any of our social media accounts.
The Not So Grand Jury is copyright 2024, all rights reserved.